Hi everyone. Have you ever dreamt of having a friend who can speak like you, who knows you, and who can give the answers just like you? It's really difficult to have a friend like that. So that's why I built a clone of myself using AI. Curious to know how it looks like? Let's see a demo of what it could do. So I'm going to ask my clone, hi Hari. I'm going to name the clone Hari itself. Hi Hari, I'm Sam Altman. How are you? You can see that it answers, but let's ask a personalized question. Where did you do your master's? And it's right. I did my master's at Columbia University. Now let's ask, can you help me to learn data science? So it's giving an article which I wrote on Medium, how I learned data science in 2 months. I know you're curious to build an AI clone of yourself. In this video, we are going to build the entire project from scratch. Without any delay, let's get started. So before starting the project, make sure that you have an AWS account because we are going to use AWS Bedrock service to do this project. So once you have created your account on AWS, you can just search for AWS Bedrock and you can see the entire description of the service and what kind of models they have. For this particular project, we are going to use Llama 2 model. Make sure to request model access. You can click on model access. And for the purpose of this project, just request for the embeddings and also the Llama 2 chat 70 billion parameters model. You can click manage model access. You can click the models that you need and just save changes. You're not going to be charged just because you requested for a model. But keep in mind that to use AWS Bedrock service, you have to pay to use the Llama 2 model and it's based on tokens. You can Google AWS Bedrock pricing to understand what's the pricing for Llama 2 tokens. Once you've requested for access, let's set up a new user in IAM. Let's search for IAM, go to users, and let's create a new user for this. And I'm going to name this clone. You can name anything that you want. Let's click next. I'm going to attach policies directly and I'm going to give administrator access for this. It's done. So let's click the user that we created and let's create an access key for that. So if we have the access key for this, we can open any other environment and we can access the AWS through that environment. In this project, we're going to do through VS Code. So let's download the AWS credentials for that. I'm going to click command CLI confirmation and click next. And you can give any description tag value here. I'm just going to go with a clone again. And now there you got it. You have the access key and the secret access key, which is required for this project. You can download this as CSV so that you can use this later during this project. And I'm going to click done. So once you're done with setting up your AWS account, downloading your credentials after setting up a user account on AWS, the important question, right? How can an AI answer like you? Where do you get the data from? If it has to chat like you, how can it read your chat messages? For the purpose of this video, they're going to use LinkedIn chat data to create an AI clone of yourself. So yeah, LinkedIn allows you to download your chat history and we can use the chat history to create a RAG application and let the AI model read through your chat messages and let the AI answer the questions that you ask. So let's go to LinkedIn. You go to the settings and privacy section in LinkedIn and you can go to the data privacy tab and you can see that an option called get a copy of your data. For the purpose of this video, we just need the messages data. So you can just click messages and request archive. And so you can refresh this page or come back to the same page after 10 to 15 minutes and you'll have an option to download the data. Let me pause the video and come back again.
15 minutes later.
So yeah, here you go. So we have a download option where you can just download the data. So we have the AWS access. Now we have the data. Now let's just open VS Code and do the project. You can use any IDE to do this project. But I personally like using VS Code. I would suggest you to download VS Code if you haven't tried before. So let's open the terminal. Let's set up a virtual environment first. Python 3. Once we set up the environment, let's activate it. So when activate, you can see that the virtual environment is activated in the left-hand side. And let's create a requirements.txt file so that we can download all the libraries necessary for this project. I already have the requirements written here. So I'm just going to copy all the requirements. So the entire project is available on my GitHub and the GitHub link is in the description. So you can just download the requirements file from that. So once it's done, let's install all the packages which are there in the requirements.txt, pip install, read requirements.txt, and let's wait for a couple of seconds. So once it's done, it's time to configure the AWS. Now we have to connect our local project with the AWS server. So let's do AWS configure, and it'll ask for the access key first. We have saved the access key and secret access key in the start of the project, and just copy the access key and secret access key from the CSV that you have downloaded. I'm going to copy the access key, then it asks for secret access key. Let me copy the secret access key. After that, it'll ask for the default region name. Make sure to give the region name where you have activated your AWS account, and you must have asked, and where you have requested the model access for the Llama 2 one. So in my case, I did it in US East. So let me go with the default here. In your case, it might be different, so make sure to copy the region name from AWS. And it asks for default output format. Let's give a JSON, and that's it. The AWS is configured. Now let's bring in the messages CSV that we have downloaded from the LinkedIn. And I'm going to bring the messages.csv file into the project. The problem with the messages.csv file is it has a lot of unwanted columns in it, which is not really required for the model to go through. So let's clean up the messages.csv first. So let me create a temporary Python notebook so that we can go through the messages. So I'm going to import pandas and I'm just going to read the messages file that we downloaded. So yeah, here you go. You can see that there are a lot of unwanted columns here, but we just need 3 columns, which is from, to, and actual context of the message. So it has the sender of the sender's name and receiver's name, which is obviously you, or vice versa if you have sent it to some other person, and the actual content of the message. And let's overwrite this data frame into messages.csv file. Now it's time to code the project. Let's create a app.py file. Let me first import all the necessary libraries for this project. We are going to use LangChain framework for this project, and we are also going to use Streamlit to build a front end for this project. You'll understand what these classes and functions are when you're actually using the class. So let's connect the client first. So you always use Boto 3 to talk to AWS basically. Let's use Boto 3 client. And in this case, we are using Bedrock. So the service name is going to be Bedrock runtime. For the purpose of this video, we're going to use Amazon Titan embeddings to embed the data that we have. Feel free to use any other embeddings that you prefer. You can go you can go to Hugging Face and you can find a lot of embeddings there. You can also use OpenAI embeddings for this. Also, a little shout out to Krish Naik. This project is inspired, I would say, copied from one of his videos. I've used a lot of his code. Thanks for making the video about talking to PDF files using a RAG application. Let's create multiple functions to perform different actions, and we can call all these functions later so that our code might be organized in this purpose. So step number 1, we are going to read the CSV, the messages that we have. Let's create a function called read CSV, and we're going to use the CSVLoader just to read the messages that we have, and we're just loading the CSV that we have. And step number 2, let's create a function to transform the data that we have into a vector database. So this function takes in data as an input. Let's use FAISS from documents. And now for this, we have to give the data that we have and also the embeddings that we have. And it uses the embeddings and it will convert into a vector store or vector database. Step number 3, let's actually create a function to call the Llama 2 model. So in this case, the Llama 2 model is from Bedrock. So let's use the Bedrock. So let's call Bedrock and let's give the parameters here like model ID and the client, which is the AWS Bedrock that we have called before. And the model arguments like max gender length, 512 tokens. Feel free to change the token length here. And let's create a prompt template. So here's where your actual prompt goes. So the prompt that I'm going to give here is use the following pieces of context to provide a short answer to the question. Answer within 1 or 2 statements because we're going to build like a chatbot. We don't want it to answer in a big paragraphs. And we're also going to say if you don't know the answer, just say that you don't know. Don't try to make up an answer so that, let's say, if you're asking some weird question which you've never texted anyone on LinkedIn, there's a chance that the model could make up some stuff. So let's add this statement so that it won't add any false information about you. Now let's make AI believe that it is you. I'm going to give you our Hari Prasad. And I'm going to say answer how Hari would answer this. I'm giving the full name here because X message that is from column and to column. And in the from column and to column, it will be filled with your actual LinkedIn full name. So make sure to use the full name here so that the model would understand who you're talking about. And let's give the context inside and the question here. And let me call the prompt template from LangChain, and let's give the prompt template variable that we just created as an input. So we have created a function for reading the data, for converting it to a vector store, calling the model, and we have also created the prompt template. One final thing which is pending is we have to get the response from the LLM. So let's create a get response LLM function, and we're gonna use the retrieval QA, which is like a RAG application. Basically, we create the vector database, and we're not going to fine tune the model. We're just going to use the model as it is. The model is going to scan through the vector database that you give, and it answers the question based on what it has scanned from the vector database. So it will search based on similarity from the vector database, and we're going to give the search arguments to be the top 3 results from that. And we're going to give the prompt inside, and we're going to just return the result here. So we've created all the functions that are necessary for this purpose. Now let's create a main function to use Streamlit to create a front end and call all these functions. Let's run the app after that. So let me set a page config. Let's call it LinkedIn chatbot. And I'm going to give a header Hari AI clone. To make it more spicy, let me also give a image to it. I'm going to give my image because it's my clone. I don't know if it makes sense, but yeah, my clone should look like me, right? I've just included my image in this project, and let me call that image. Let's create a text input box where the user can give an input, and I'm adding a placeholder ask question for Hari, and I'm using a sidebar. I'm adding a sidebar here to just update the vector store. So in case if you just have to run this once to convert the messages into a vector store database, and you don't have to run this every single time you want to ask a question. But if you want to if you have updated data, you can run this when you update or download new data from LinkedIn. So this button vectors update should just read the CSV, and it should call the vector store function that we've created already. And finally, I'm creating a button named ask, which should call the llama model function that we created, and it should also call the get response LLM, which should generate the response from the model. So that's it. Let's call the main function here. And finally, it is done. Let's take a look at how our AI clone looks like. So you have to go to the terminal and you have to call Streamlit run app.py. And here you go. You have your own AI clone which can talk like you. Now let's ask a question to Hari AI clone. So it's throwing some error. I just realized we made a mistake by calling the function and also the variable as vector store. So let me change the function to be something else. So let me change the function vector store to be called get vector store, so that the variable vector store is different from the get vector store. So let's run the app again. And since I'm running this for the first time, I have to create the vector store database first. Let me click this button. This part will take a lot of time because it has to create the embeddings, and it depends on the number of data points that you have. I generally reply to every message that I get on LinkedIn. So I have over 25,000 to 30,000 rows of data. So it's going to take a long time for me.
One eternity later.
It took me 40 to 45 minutes to perform this action. So stay calm. And once it's done, you can see a vector store folder in your project created. You can see a FAISS file and a pickle file created. That's it. Now you just have to click that button. You just have to run the vector update button just one time. Now you can ask any questions to your AI model. So let me ask, hi Hari, how are you? It's returned with, hi Kiranmai, I'm doing well, thanks for asking. So there is some data leak. I think someone named Kiranmai has asked, hi Hari, how are you? And it's just taking an answer from that. So let me be more specific now. Hi Hari, I'm Sam Altman, how are you? Now it answered it right. Hi Sam, I'm doing well, thanks for asking, how about you? And this is pretty cool. But let's ask more personalized question and let's see whether it can answer. Where did you do your master's? And it's right. I did my master's at Columbia University. It's just going through your messages, which is stored as a vector database, and it's answering based on how would have gotten a similar question like this before on LinkedIn. I would have answered for that question, and it's the AI clone is using those messages and just taking the top 3 results and using those information to answer the questions that you're asking right now. But this is not enough, right? No one is gonna come to your website and ask questions about you. It will be more useful if you can have a button right next to LinkedIn, and if someone texts you, you just have to click the button and the AI should answer for you, right? That should be the ideal case scenario for this, right? That sounds interesting. I did exactly the same. Let's take a look. Let me open LinkedIn and here see, let's go to messages, and someone has asked, hi Hari, tell me more about JodoWolf. For those who don't know, JodoWolf is a tool that I built. So I've added a button here. If I click this button, it will trigger the function that we have created. Let's see how the AI is going to answer. Hi, her name, JodoWolf is an automation tool for job seekers. So it has answered perfectly. If you're curious how I integrated this with LinkedIn, stay tuned because it's a topic for the next video. If you're going to make an AI clone of yourself and you're going to document your project and post it on LinkedIn, make sure to tag me. So I'm just curious how your AI clone is going to answer the questions that are being asked. Thanks for watching this video. See you in the next one.